A 2 seed was expected, and it is completely fair. Tennessee's run in the NCAA tournament, we know the path. It all starts on Thursday against St. Peter's. I'll tell you why I like the draw and more. Monday, Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Monday morning, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Vols. It is a new week, and we got a lot to get into. I'm your host, Eric Kane. Appreciate you guys for being here, making Locked On Vols your first listen each and every day. Shout out to our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions do apply. Vols get the number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. Why I like this path and more. You do got to watch out for St. Peter's, the Thursday matchup, the 2 to 15 seed. We'll break down that matchup. Spring ball begins, and could James Pearce be the number 1 overall draft pick in 2025? We'll discuss, plus a baseball roundup, why it's not time to overreact here following the first SEC series of the season. That is your show. Don't forget, Twitter Tuesday is coming up tomorrow. Any questions, comments, concerns, whatever you guys have, send those in at _Caner and at Locked On Vols. You can watch, view, subscribe, listen, all that more for free wherever you get your podcasts on the YouTube channel by subscribing to Locked On Vols and, of course, downloading us wherever you get your podcast. All right, so Tennessee, it was announced on CBS last night about 6 o'clock, 6:15-ish or whatever. Tennessee will begin its NCAA tournament run as the 2 seed in the Midwest region. Going into conference championship tournament action, Tennessee, according to a lot of bracketologists, including ESPN's Joe Lunardi, who's the most famous of the ones. I'm not saying he's the most accurate, but he's the most famous. Tennessee was on that one line. Okay, it was in a battle between Tennessee and North Carolina, Tennessee and Arizona a little bit. But of course, as the weekend progressed, it turned into, obviously, not Tennessee. Houston and UConn took care of business. They got the number 1 seeds, Purdue as well. And of course, North Carolina was able to grab a number 1 seed despite losing in the ACC tournament on Saturday to a team that had played 5 games and had to win 5 straight just to get a bid, automatic bid, that being NC State. And former Vol DJ Burns, who had a pretty good week as well. But after Tennessee kind of got waxed there by Mississippi State on Friday, nobody expected Tennessee to be a 1 seed anymore. You can't expect that. And I'm not talking about, you can stack up resume and quad 1 wins and all that and more. And of course, you can have an argument that Tennessee should still be a number 1 seed. But after the performance Tennessee had in Nashville, going 1 and done, you can't expect to be a 1 seed. So that's why I kind of said in the cold open, the 2 seed was expected. And the 2 seed's fair. The 2 seed is very fair, in my opinion. Tennessee was the number 5 overall seed, which meant it was the number 1 2 seed, okay? And it was kind of the first one out, if you will, if you want to look at it in that regards in terms of number 1 seeds. But, again, it was disappointing, Tennessee's performance in the SEC tournament. But I think most importantly, Tennessee's got to get its defense back under control. Defense against Kentucky, and even when Tennessee beat Kentucky in Rupp Arena, still gave up, I want to say, 90 points to the Wildcats. Gave up a lot against Kentucky at home to finish off the regular season. We talked about that last week. But just kind of let Mississippi State go up, led by as many as 23 at one point in time, and that's just, of course, not going to cut it. But at the end of the day, it's tournament basketball, and the best team in the country a lot of the times does not win the NCAA tournament. It's not set up like the NBA best of a 5 or best of a 7 game conference championship series or NBA finals. It's just not set up that way. So you got to be on. You can't afford to be leaving anything in the tank. You can't afford to go through those scoring lulls. You can't afford to play horrible defense like you have at times here. Unfortunately, to end the season after playing really inspired basketball over a 3-game stretch where you saw wins against Auburn, South Carolina, and Alabama. Nonetheless, though, Tennessee's still in a pretty good spot, all right? Midwest region, the number 5 overall seed, number 2, the number 1, number 2 seed will take on St. Peter's, the 15th seed on Thursday in Charlotte. And I like this because, yeah, you're in the Midwest region, but you open up in Charlotte. Therefore, a lot of Tennessee fans can go over the mountain and on into North Carolina and enjoy the festivities on Thursday and Saturday. If Tennessee wins against St. Peter's in the opening round matchup, then it will likely take on Texas, the 7th seed, or the winner of the play-in games for the 10th seed, Colorado and Boise State, who will have to duke it out earlier in the week, and that winner will take on Texas. The big hitters in this region for Tennessee: Purdue is the number 1 seed. Tennessee is the number 2 seed. Creighton is the number 3 seed. Kansas is the number 4 seed. And as I mentioned, 7th seed is Texas. And, we'll just kind of see what happens here. St. Peter's, of course, went on that long run, took down Kentucky and some others, and went on to the Elite Eight last year. One of the Cinderella teams was St. Peter's. And that's why you can never let your guard down. You got to be ready for pretty much anything. But as I continue to look at this region, again, I see Tennessee winning on Thursday, going and playing likely Texas in the round of 32 for a spot in the Sweet 16. And that's when you're going to square off against Creighton. Creighton could potentially be your matchup there in the Sweet 16. And, we'll see who all goes on and has a spot in the Elite Eight, and then, of course, into the Final Four. Elsewhere around the bracket, again, as I mentioned, UConn, the number 1 seed in the East, Houston, the number 1 seed in the South, North Carolina, the 1 seed in the West, and Purdue, the 1 seed in the Midwest. Tennessee would have likely been if it was a number 1 seed, would have likely been the 1 seed out in the West, but of course that's where North Carolina is. Other teams out there in the West, Alabama's the 4, Mississippi State is the 8, Michigan State is the 9, Clemson is the 6th, Alabama's the 4 seed, Baylor's the 3, and Arizona is the 2, whereas you're looking at a Midwest bracket where Purdue's the 1, Tennessee's the 2, Kansas is the 4, Creighton's the 3, Gonzaga's the 5, South Carolina is in this bracket, is in this region, that is the 6, Texas is the 7. Your 8-9 matchup is Utah State against TCU, and so on and so forth. So I kind of like this draw a little bit, but at the end of the day, you got to get back to playing. You got to get back to playing the way that Tennessee basketball has played all season long. Can't afford to, again, not play your brand of defense and not play your style of defense, and you can't afford just to have Dalton just try to do it all by himself. Now, you let Dalton go and do what he does, but Santiago Vescovi, who just continues to struggle and has no confidence whatsoever, has got to find a way to make some shots, as is Josiah Jordan-James. Jonas Adu has got to be your pick to click. And, of course, when Tennessee plays poorly and when Tennessee loses, typically Zakai Ziegler is not Zakai Ziegler that Tennessee has whenever Tennessee wins games. So, again, here you are, and we'll see what happens. It's fun. It's March Madness. They call it March Madness for a reason. There's going to be upset picks. There is going to be a team that makes a run that nobody's even thinking about right now. And there's going to be really, really good teams that are capable of winning it all that are not even going to make it to the Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight. That's what you call about March Madness. Here's the Tennessee not being one of those teams. Here's the Tennessee advancing on to only its 2nd Elite Eight appearance of all-time history, and maybe even going on to the Final Four for the first time ever in program history. I really, really like to see that happen, and I think this is a very doable path for the Volunteers. Of course, Creighton is going to be standing in the way, and before it's all said and done, you'll have Purdue up there at the top. But nonetheless, you got to take care of what's in front of you, and that's St. Peter's on Thursday, and then likely Texas, or maybe one of these teams that goes on a run, Colorado or Boise State, whoever wins that play-in game, maybe they can knock off Texas in the 10-7. So we will have to see. Hey, when we come back, spring ball begins. What's the schedule look like, and what are we expected to see and talk to over the course of week 1 of spring ball? And can James Pearce be a number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft? All that and more. That's coming up next when we continue on with Locked On Vols. This week's March Madness bracket highlight is brought to you by our friends over at Nissan. Again, we talked about it last week. The Tennessee Volunteers can only be described as one of those pathfinders. They've been thrilling to watch and have recently created a lane for themselves after claiming the top spot in the SEC. Player of the Year candidate Dalton Knecht has carried the Vols all season long and made them a team to watch in March. But that Nissan Rogue, maybe the Utah State Aggies. The team absolutely surprised us all with a powerful performance against New Mexico, giving them their first outright Mountain West title in program history. They say win live, go Rogue. That's exactly what the Aggies have done here. And of course, you can't forget about the Armada, the Houston Cougars. That's probably the best characterization of the best metaphor comparison here. The top seeded team is as hardcore as it gets out there, so no wonder they're expected to land a top seed in the NCAA tournament. Of course, their first season in the Big 12. Take on the Nissan Rogue, the Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure today. Shop NissanUSA.com. So as always, big thanks to Nissan and another big thanks to our friends over at Amazon TV. Fire TV. It's your destination for sports, live games, highlights, in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs as well as a Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies, episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On, with most of your big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date with all the latest in the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and a whole lot more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking, videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on the Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on that. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. More to come as we continue on with this Monday edition of Locked On Vols. All right, so reacting to Tennessee's draw in the NCAA tournament field, it is the number 2 seed, and of course it'll take on number 15 seed St. Peter's on Thursday, and we'll break it down, we'll preview it all, we'll talk about it all right here on Locked On Vols as the week goes on. I do want to switch gears here and talk a little bit of football. We've been talking and previewing Tennessee's spring practice. It officially gets going this week. Later this morning, depending on what time you're listening to this, we will be over there to view our 20 minutes of stretching, 20 minutes of individual, and we'll get to see a whole lot of stuff. Sarcasm there, but nonetheless, it's better than nothing. And so we'll be there and checking that out. For day 1 of spring practice, Tennessee hits the practice field, and then Josh Heupel will speak about an hour afterwards, and we'll have to see what he has to say there. Tuesday will be a practice day. Tim Banks will speak. Wednesday's an off day. Thursday, practice in the morning. Joey Halsley will speak. Friday's an off day. Saturday, there's a practice day with Rodney Gardner speaking. And then Sunday will be an off day. I believe the first scrimmage of spring practice is set for Wednesday at Neyland Stadium. So we'll be excited to, we won't be able to see that, but we'll have some people in there that will tell us about what's going on. And I've been looking forward to all that. I'll tell you exactly, what I see and some of the big takeaways each and every day over at Tennessee football spring practice. So looking forward to that. But it's officially here. It starts today. These new faces that we talked about last week. Who's going to step out? These position battles, left guard, safety, cornerback. Just the whole entire new look secondary, depth at linebacker. There's a lot on the line here. And of course, Nico Iamaleava. What does he look like as the guy, the quarterback, but not only the quarterback of this offense, but the leader of this football team? All that, hopefully, we'll get a glimpse over the next couple of weeks at Tennessee spring practice. But that begins this week, this morning, and we'll tell you all about what I saw over there at practice on Tuesday's Locked On Vols. So go ahead and mark your calendars there. Second half of this segment, thought it was interesting. There's been a lot of talk about James Pearce. Always is. When you're one of the best pass rushers in college football, you're going to have the spotlight on you. But ESPN draft analyst Matt Miller wrote a couple months ago, sometime in January, that Tennessee edge rusher James Pearce Jr. could have potentially been the first defensive player selected in this year's NFL draft, 2024's NFL draft. Of course, James Pearce is not eligible. He's only a redshirt. He's a true sophomore, coming off his true sophomore season, so he's not eligible yet. But Matt Miller said that he might have been the number 1 defensive player taken in this year's draft. That's how good James Pearce is and how much potential James Pearce has. That's pretty telling, right? That was a couple months ago. Pro Football Focus took it a step further. Max Chadwick of PFF, he wrote that Pearce could potentially be the number 1 overall pick in 2025. He goes on to say, he is a freakish explosiveness. He possesses freakish explosiveness at 6'5", 242 pounds. He converts speed to power at an elite level. With the 2025 NFL Draft looking like it'll feature a weaker quarterback class, there's a real chance that Pearce could be the number 1 overall pick. I mean, of course, he's got to duplicate, not exactly what he did this past year, but he's got to be one of the premier pass rushers, not only in the SEC, but, the country, for him to be even in the conversation of number 1. But, right there, he listed his measurements. 6'5", 242 pounds. And when he arrived on campus, he was 6'5", probably 220 pounds, but looked like a rail. He's put on some weight. And he's still got more room to put on weight. And his ability to possess speed off the edge has been really, really good. Now, again, for him to be in this conversation for 2025, it means that he's got to be dominant in the 2024 season. He finished 5th overall this past year in Pro Football Focus's defensive ratings last season with a 91.0 overall grade. That is an elite grade. He was just behind UCLA's Latu, 96.2, Marshall's Elijah Alston, 91.2, SMU's Elijah Roberts, 91.2. Pearce was 3rd in pass rush with a season grade at 92.4. And of course, that's all according to Pro Football Focus. He played 462 snaps in 13 games, 246 pass rushing at snaps, and 182 snaps against the run. Really, really good and effective against the pass. Chadwick goes on to write, Pearce became one of the most fearsome pass rushers in college football this past season. The sophomore's 21.3 pressure rate ranked 3rd among all edge defenders in the country, as did his 92.4 pass rush grade. Pearce ends the season as the 4th most valuable Power 5 edge defender, according to Pro Football Focus wins above average metric. Had a really, really good season, of course. 10 sacks as a sophomore. That's 4 more than the next closest player on Tennessee's roster, which was Tyler Barron. He led Tennessee with 14.5 TFLs, 3 more than Aaron Beasley, who was in second place with 11.5. He racked up 16 quarterback hits. That's 11 ahead of Tyler Barron, who finished second on the team. Of course, Tyler Barron, Ole Miss now. I believe he's at Louisville. I don't know. He, wherever he's at now. Had a really good year to Tyler Barron, but that just goes to show you how elite that James Pearce was. So, again, it's something cool to talk about. When we talk about spring practice beginning this week, we're talking about players who you really don't want to hear much about. You want to get in, get a little bit of work, sit over on the side, take your helmet off, drink some water, let guys like Joshua Josephs, let guys like not Elijah Herring, but Caleb Herring get in there and get a whole lot of work. Kellen Lindstrom, true freshman Leo. Lindstrom might actually flip over and play to the other side, but nonetheless, you want to see those guys get a whole lot of work over the next course of a couple of weeks into a month. James Pearce can't afford to take the whole time off, and he won't. He'll be out there on the practice field working and everything, but like Cooper Mays, like a lot of these guys, Brew McCoy's not going to be out there, but much like Cooper Mays is probably the best comparison I can give. Put him in bubble wrap, let him be out there, let him get in shape and everything, let him teach and coach a little bit, but you really don't want to hear an awful lot about James Pearce over spring practice because you just need him ready to roll, have that chin strap buckled and going for week 1 and getting ready for the football season. But the fact that there are articles out there that are talking about James Pearce arguably being the best defensive player in this year's draft, which he's not eligible for, and maybe the number 1 overall pick in 2025, it just goes to show you how good he is, how good of a developer that Rodney Gardner is, and if he continues to play at this clip, then that means Tennessee is going to be really good defensively on third downs. Get off the field, force turnovers, and in result will help your football team win more games. Good position to be in. Really good position to be in, and it's really, really cool to see James Pearce continue to transform his body and get better and better as the years goes on. Hey, when we come back, Tennessee baseball, it's your Monday roundup. Not the best week for Tony Vitello and the boys, but no reason to panic, guys. I'll tell you why that coming up next right here on Locked On Vols. When you're hiring for small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you've got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn's got a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals that you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all this while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many different hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make that process easier. 2.5 million small businesses are currently using LinkedIn for hiring because the process is so easy and intuitive. So if this is you, if you have a need to hire for your small business, check out LinkedIn Jobs. You can post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That is linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions, they do apply. All right, we got a final segment left here of this Monday morning Locked On Vols. Got a lot going on this week. Tennessee playing in the NCAA Tournament. Tennessee spring football practice beginning today. We got X Tuesday. We're going to answer all of your questions, comments, concerns on Tennessee football, basketball, baseball, recruiting. Send those questions in at _Caner and at Locked On Vols. And, of course, you can comment if you're watching on YouTube right now. I'll find those questions there. But, again, you guys asked for it. A lot of you guys have been asking for it, and so I'm trying to give it to you guys here in baseball season. A little baseball roundup on a Monday morning. Not the best week for Tony Vitello and the Tennessee baseball team. Started out strong, 11-3. Did Tennessee win game 1 on Friday night behind A.J. Causey. He continues to really flourish. He continues to thrive for Tennessee in the starting role as A.J. Russell, we'll get into more in a minute, continues to get stretched out and make his return to the mound. It was back-to-back home runs hit by Alabama in the bottom of the first inning, and you thought Tennessee was in for a long, long day at the ballpark. But Tennessee came back, played a 2 in the third, 2 in the fourth, 3 in the fifth, 2 in the sixth, was ahead 10-2, scored 1 in the 8th, 11-2, and then Alabama was able to tack on 1 in the bottom half of the 9th inning, but it was obviously too late. 11-3 the final score. Blake Burke had 3 hits in that opening game, drove in 2. Blake Burke continues to be arguably Tennessee's most valuable player. So good start to the weekend, feeling good. Tennessee takes down a ranked opponent. Alabama came into the weekend ranked number 14. Tennessee wins 11-3 in convincing fashion. So let's go to Saturday. Drew Beam, okay? And this one started off just really, really bad. Tennessee fell behind 1-0 in the first inning, 3-0 in the second inning, and 5-0 in the or 6-0 rather in the third inning. By the end of inning number 3, Tennessee was trailing 6-0. Drew Beam, which wasn't getting great defense behind him, specifically from Christian Moore, had a throwing error, and he made a really, really good stop on a play up the middle. But if he lost the handle on a baseball, and if he would have thrown to first, that would have got Drew Beam out of the inning. But instead, from there, it kind of snowballed, and it went into a 3-run third. So not the best defense behind him. Drew Beam wasn't having his best day at the yard overall to begin his start. Christian Moore ran into an out on the base pass, which was inexcusable at that point in time. Tennessee was just abysmal with hitting with runners in scoring position to begin that game. It was a total team effort through 3 innings, but that's why you don't give up. It's why you don't panic. Tennessee lost this game 6-3, but Tennessee never quit. Tennessee bounced back. Just started, carving out a roll here. Played a run in the 4th inning, had a run in the 7th inning, had a run in the 8th inning, brought the tying run to the on-deck circle twice in the 9th inning or late in that ball game. Never gave up, still fell 6-3, but I like the resiliency and I like the bounce-back attitude from Tennessee in this game. And Drew Beam completely saved the bullpen for Tennessee all weekend long by when he finally got by those rough patches, when he, like in the inning 2 and 3, he could not find the third out of the inning. He would pick up 2 outs really quickly, and then it would kind of snowball from there. But once he got past the 3rd inning, he settled in, and he cruised. Drew Beam ended up being the only pitcher to pitch for Tennessee in this game. He went 8 innings, gave up 5 runs, six runs. Only 5 of those were earned off 8 hits, struck out 6, walked 2, 101 pitches, 70 strikes. And the way he was pitching, innings 3, 4, 5, and 6, and where his pitch count was, there was no reason to bring him out of the baseball game. And if you're Frank Anderson, Tony Vitello, you're saying, well, right now the way he's pitching gives Tennessee the best chance to win. Plus, you're saving your bullpen for a loaded Game 3 winner-take-all series finale. So Drew Beam, hats off, was not his best day, but he battled and he saved Tennessee's bullpen on Saturday. For the bats, Christian Moore, as bad as he was defensively at times in this game, and despite his boneheaded base running mistake, he had a fantastic day at the plate. He started 4 for 4, finished 4 for 5, had a double, had a home run. He drove in 1. He scored 1 run. He was phenomenal in that leadoff spot. Christian Moore had a really, really good game. And Kavaris Tier just went to his last AB, but he was able to extend his hit streak to 18 games. So a lot to not like. Tennessee probably had a D-plus effort in Saturday's game, but Alabama still only won by 3 and were holding off Tennessee. It was coming on strong. So you felt really good going into Sunday's series finale. You did. Your bullpen was completely fresh. You're going to start A.J. Russell, coming back for the first time in 3 weeks. He's been dealing with general soreness. You knew that he was not going to pitch probably more than 2 innings, somewhere around 6 outs, 40 to 45 pitches. He comes in there, and he looks really good. If not for a balk in his first inning where it moved a runner over from first to second, that runner came around to score later on. If not for the balk, he would have pitched a spotless 2 innings of work in his return. But, he did have that balk, and so he's charged with 1 run off 2 hits and 2 innings, 2 strikeouts, no walks, 40 pitches, 28 strikes. A really good return for A.J. Russell. Chris Stamos, who made his return after 2 weeks on Tuesday, got roughed up a little bit, charged with 2 runs off 1 hit and only a third of an inning. He was that bridge guy between A.J. Russell and Nate Snead. Nate Snead, who pitched 6 innings of scoreless baseball against Illinois last Sunday, he did not have it today, and he continued to make matters worse. He did not have it on Sunday, and he really made matters worse for himself by putting a leadoff runner aboard in several of his innings. Had to pitch around that several different times. He gave up 4 runs off 8 hits altogether in 5 innings and a third. 2 strikeouts, no walks. Hit 2 batsmen, 66 pitches, 45 strikes. It was not Nate Snead's day, and he got the loss on Sunday. But overall, Tennessee finally broke through by scoring 4 in the third. They were able to hit with runners in scoring position. They were able to hit with runners on base, and that was big because that's why you lost Tuesday's game. In fact, on Saturday's game, Game 2. In Game 2, Tennessee was 3 for 19 with runners on base, 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position, and they were 1 for 3 with a runner at third and less than 2 outs, 0 for 2 with the bases loaded. That's why you lose by 3 runs at 6-3, because you couldn't hit. But finally, Tennessee was able to break through early in the third inning, and it took a commanding 4-1 lead. But then the wheels fell off in the bottom of the 8th inning when Tennessee gave up a 3-run home run. And it was Nate Snead that gave up a 3-run home run to Gage Miller. And Alabama was able to take a 7-5 lead. And Tennessee even loaded the bases a couple of times. And Tennessee was pressing on, was only able to get 1 run in the top of the 9th inning. And eventually fell 7-6. But the story of the weekend, really, especially in the 2 losses, just hitting with runners in scoring position. In Saturday and Sunday's game, Tennessee went 3 for 19 with runners in scoring position. Tennessee went 8 for 37 with runners on base. Tennessee went 2 for 7 with a runner at third and 2 outs. Tennessee went 1 for 7 with the bases loaded. All that in games 2 and 3 when Tennessee lost and ultimately lost the series. Tennessee loses back-to-back games for the first time this season. The 17-game win streak, it was snapped with Saturday's 6-3 defeat. Kavaris Tier's 18-game hitting streak was halted on Sunday when he was over 4 at the plate. Blake Burke, meanwhile, now has an 11-game hit streak, so that's something to pay attention to. And Christian Moore, 6 of 15, a home run, RBI, 3 runs scored over the weekend. He was pretty solid at the plate. All that to say this, and we'll kind of say goodbye here on a Monday. We're fans. Fans is short for fanatic. I get it. We overreact. Everything is life and death. If you're new to the sport of baseball, if you're new to following baseball, especially college baseball and Tennessee baseball, just a little word to the wise here from me. Okay? You don't have to follow my advice, but take it for what it is. It is a long season. It is a marathon. It is certainly not a sprint. Every baseball game is not like a football game. Football games are life and death, right? Not really, but you lose one, you really put yourself back. But I mean, now with with the expanded playoff, you buy yourself some time. But my point is, when you lose a football game, it's a huge deal. When you lose a basketball game, it could be a huge deal, but for the most part, you play so many, it doesn't really hurt you that bad if you just slip up and lose one. In baseball, you play 30 conference games and 50 games overall. It is a marathon, not a sprint. Tennessee started 5-10 in conference play last year. I don't advise this. Tennessee started 5-10 in conference play last year and went on to their second College World Series appearance in the last 3 years. No reason to freak out right now. Are there questions for this team? Absolutely. They got to find a way to hit with runners on base and runners in scoring position. The bullpen, which I think is the weakness coming into this week, I mean, there's no answers for the bullpen right now. That's a concern. So, yeah, are there shortcomings for this team? Are there question marks? Absolutely. But is there any reason to freak out right now? Heck no. Heck no. It is a long, long season. So, little word-wise, that's just my 2 cents. Saw a lot of it on Twitter, a lot of it on the message boards and all that. But, hey, that's okay. Tennessee baseball will continue on. We'll take Xavier on Tuesday, and then we'll be at home against Ole Miss next weekend. Guys, thank you so much for joining us here on a Monday edition of Locked On Vols. Tennessee is a 2 seed in the NCAA Tournament. Midwest will take on the 15th seeded St. Peter's. Peacocks will play them on Thursday, and then, of course, we'll await the winner of the 7th seeded Texas against whoever wins the playing game for the 10th seed. I don't have that in front of me, but that's Colorado and somebody else. But nonetheless, all that and more, we'll continue to preview it, talk about it, recap it all. Tennessee in the NCAA Tournament, that's happening right here on Locked On Vols. Spring practice begins today. We'll tell you what I saw on Tuesday right here on Locked On Vols. And, of course, we'll take your questions, your comments, your concerns on Tennessee football, basketball, baseball, and recruiting. Just send them in at _Caner and at Locked On Vols. Mailbag questions. They will be answered on tomorrow's show. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Watch, listen, subscribe, download, all that for free wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, on YouTube by subscribing to Locked On Vols. Until tomorrow's show, stay safe and really appreciate you being here. This is Locked On Vols.